For the better part of a century, the subject of unidentified flying objects has existed in a liminal space, suspended between national security paranoia and public ridicule. We were told they were atmospheric aberrations. We were told they were misidentifications. We were told they were fantasies. But the era of silence is over. The early 21st century has witnessed a paradigm shift driven by a convergence of high-fidelity sensor data, credible military testimony, and legislative mandate.
Considering the thousands of testimonies and videos taken on people's phones and eyewitnesses' accounts made by credible witnesses such as doctors, pilots, scientists, and active duty service members, it is unacceptable to continue to gaslight Americans into thinking that this is not happening or that the potential of intelligent life forms exists other than humans.
The United States government has reclassified these incursions as unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP. And this awakening is not confined to the United States. From the defense ministries of Japan and France to the strategic commands of Russia and China, the world's major powers are confronting a shared reality. There is a distinct technological presence operating within sovereign airspace, and it is not ours. The accounts you are about to hear are possible only because the veil of secrecy is lifting. Through confirmed Navy videos, pilot debriefings, and declassified radar telemetry, we can now conduct a sober, data-driven examination of the historical record. That record points to capabilities that defy our current understanding of physics. Intelligence analysts refer to them as the 5 observables: anti-gravity lift, sudden instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic velocities without sonic booms, low observability, and transmedium travel, seamless movement from space to atmosphere to ocean. What follows is the result of a meticulous, months-long investigation into the most credible encounters on record. From thousands of global reports, we selected 20 cases supported by verified sensor data, official documentation, multiple trained witnesses, or declassified government records. These are not stories of blurry lights in the sky. They are demonstrations of technological superiority. They are supported by nuclear launch officers, fighter aviators, radar operators, law enforcement personnel, and commercial pilots, alongside physical evidence, flight logs, sensor readings, and ground traces. In each case, we will reconstruct the event as it unfolded. Hear the testimony of those who witnessed it, and analyze the behavior of objects that appear to operate far beyond the limits of human engineering. This documentary is not here to convince you of anything. It is here to show you what happened and allow the evidence to speak for itself. The sheer volume of corroborating data renders the mass hallucination hypothesis scientifically untenable. The reality of the phenomenon is established. The question is no longer if they are here. The question is, what are they doing? We begin with the first case, a quiet moment in an ordinary place until something impossible entered the sky. The first event in our timeline is widely regarded as the gold standard of modern UAP encounters. It occurred within the controlled airspace of a United States Navy carrier strike group. In November 2004, the USS Nimitz Strike Group was conducting routine training operations southwest of San Diego. For nearly a week, the USS radar system detected unknown objects performing maneuvers beyond the limits of any known aircraft. Radar operators tracked multiple targets descending from 80,000 feet to sea level in under 1 second, hovering briefly, then accelerating away at extreme velocity. The signatures were recorded repeatedly across multiple independent systems and verified by trained technicians. On November 14th, 2 FA-18F Super Hornets were dispatched to intercept one of the targets. The Princeton guided the jets to a merge point, the location where both aircraft and unknown object were expected to meet. When the fighters arrived, there was no conventional aircraft waiting for them, only a patch of violently disturbed water, churning in the middle of an otherwise calm ocean. And then, Commander Fravor saw it.
Ground control, this is Fraser. I have a visual on the target. It's a large, white, elongated object. Water is boiling directly beneath it.
When we arrived at the merge plot, the first thing that caught my eye wasn't the object, it was the water. The ocean was calm, a flat blue sheet, except for one tight area. The water was boiling, like something massive was just beneath the surface, something roughly the size of a Boeing 737. And hovering about 50 feet above it was this white, elongated capsule. Smooth, no wings, no rotors, no exhaust. It looked like a 40-foot Tic Tac just hanging in the air. I started a descent to get a closer look. The moment I did, it reacted. It didn't drift. It snapped up to my altitude, as if it had locked onto us. Every turn I made, it mirrored, anticipated. I remember thinking, whatever is controlling this thing knows exactly what it's doing. I cut aggressively across the circle to close distance. In response, it didn't fly away. It vanished.
Target in sight, holding course. Copy. It's going! Bullet!
It accelerated instantaneously, gone from the visual field like a bullet. No acceleration curve, no afterburner, no sonic boom. It simply disappeared. Seconds later, the Princeton came over the radio.
Sir, the object is at your CAP point, 60 miles from your position.
60 miles away, in seconds. That's when it hit me. We were dealing with something far beyond anything our military has.
This incident raises several disturbing questions. Why did the object appear during a Navy training exercise? Was it observing military readiness? Why did it mirror Commander Fravor's maneuvers so precisely? This suggests awareness, possibly even curiosity. What propulsion system could perform these maneuvers? Independent analysis indicates power outputs comparable to a compact nuclear reactor. And how did it arrive at the jet's rendezvous point before they did? It behaved as though it already knew their flight plan. These behaviors imply intelligence, intention, and technological superiority.
Mr. Favor, what astonished you the most about the flight capabilities of these Tic Tac, very briefly?
The performance, absolute performance. It was.
And you're not aware of any other objects that anybody in the world has, in this world, that has those capabilities?
No, I think it's far beyond actually our material science that we currently possess.
The Nimitz encounter demonstrated that these objects could operate with impunity inside restricted military airspace. But 10 years later, on the opposite side of the continent, pilots would discover that these anomalies weren't merely visiting, they were staying. Ten years after the USS Nimitz encounter, the USS Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group began operations off the eastern coast of the United States. Shortly before deployment, Navy aircraft were equipped with a major upgrade, the APG-79 Active Electronically Scanned Array Radar, one of the most advanced airborne sensor systems ever fielded. Almost immediately, pilots began detecting unknown contacts. Unlike the Nimitz incident, a brief, isolated intercept, these encounters became a persistent daily reality. Radar systems repeatedly detected objects loitering at altitudes ranging from sea level to 30,000 feet. Some remained stationary against hurricane-force winds. Others maneuvered at high speed, continuously for more than 12 hours. No known aircraft can do this. The fuel requirements alone exceed the capabilities of any fighter jet, drone, or reconnaissance platform in existence. Yet the contacts remained, day after day, week after week.
At first, we assumed something was wrong with our instruments. The radar was painting tracks that made no sense, objects moving in ways we believed were impossible. So we ran diagnostics, we swapped processors, we recalibrated everything. The contacts stayed. That's when we started trying to see them visually. I'll never forget the first time I saw one through the canopy. It was a perfect sphere, and inside it, a dark cube, suspended, as if gravity had no influence on it at all. These things showed up every day. They didn't hide, they didn't flee, they just occupied our airspace like they owned it. The closest call happened when one of the objects came within 50 feet of a Super Hornet. No turbulence, no evasive maneuver. It sliced through the formation cleanly, like it was testing us. We filed safety reports, we warned command. But the truth is, we had no idea what we were dealing with. Whatever these objects were, they outperformed everything we had.
2 specific encounters were captured on video and later released by the U.S. Department of Defense. They are now known as Gimbal and Go Fast. Both incidents confirm simultaneous detection across radar, infrared, and visual systems, eliminating sensor error or illusion.
My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing. It's rotating.
Nickel 6-1 Tango, Valentich, over.
Oh, got it! Woohoo!
Roger, there's troubleshooting.
Did you box moving target?
02.
No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at it fly!
The Roosevelt encounters represent one of the most comprehensively documented patterns of UAP activity in military history. These encounters raise urgent questions. Why did the objects repeatedly enter restricted military training airspace? How did shapes that should be aerodynamically unstable maintain perfect control? What was the intent behind flying dangerously close to a Navy jet? Curiosity, testing, or signaling presence? Remaining airborne for more than 12 hours while holding position in 120-knot winds requires continuous energy output far beyond chemical combustion. And perhaps most disturbing of all, why weren't they hiding? Why were they so bold? The Roosevelt encounters revealed something new. Not brief intrusions, not isolated anomalies, but a persistent, intelligent presence operating with total impunity around U.S. military assets. But what happens when one of these objects is filmed entering the ocean without slowing down? Our next case takes us to Puerto Rico, where U.S. Customs and Border Protection aircraft captured one of the clearest examples of true transmedium behavior ever recorded. On a warm April night in 2013, at precisely 9:20 p.m., air traffic controllers at Rafael Hernandez Airport in Aguadilla noticed something unusual approaching from the sea. Radar detected a low-flying object with no transponder, no flight plan, and no radio communication. A silent intruder entering restricted airspace near an international airport. A U.S. Customs and Border Protection aircraft, a DHC-8 turboprop equipped with multi-sensor system, was beginning a routine patrol. The aircraft was designed for one purpose: to find smugglers in total darkness. Its mission changed instantly. The crew was ordered to intercept and track the unknown object. What followed would become one of the clearest and most scientifically troubling UAP recordings ever captured by a U.S. government aircraft.
When I first locked onto it, the object was flying just above the water, maybe 80 or 90 feet off the surface. I've tracked aircraft, gliders, drones, drug-running boats. Everything leaves a signature: heat, turbulence, wake, reflection. This thing had none. On infrared, it looked like a dark stone sliding across the ocean. No engines, no exhaust plume, no wings, no rotors, just a compact shape moving with perfect precision, almost like the air didn't matter to it. We circled to get a better angle. That's when it started descending. At first, I thought we were watching a crash. The angle was too steep, too deliberate. But instead of hitting the water, it just slipped in. No splash, no burst of heat, no plume of displaced water. It was like the ocean wasn't even a barrier. Our system continued tracking it beneath the surface. And that's when the cabin went silent. We were watching it move underwater at nearly the same speed it had in the air. No slowing, no distortion. Water should have stopped it cold. 2 minutes later, it came back out. Same speed, same heading. Still cold, still smooth, still perfectly controlled. And then something happened that honestly made my stomach drop. It split. One object became two, cleanly, fluidly. No explosion, no heat flash, no tearing. They simply separated and continued on their way, side by side, perfectly synchronized. I looked around the cabin. Every face had the same expression. We weren't confused. We weren't guessing. We weren't misreading anything. The camera captured everything, every frame. There was no room for interpretation. Whatever we were tracking, it wasn't ours, and it wasn't anything we were trained to explain.
This incident raises profound questions. What form of propulsion allows a single vehicle to move through air and water with identical performance, without heat, turbulence, or resistance? How can a physical object enter the ocean at speed without producing any disturbance at all? Is the object exploiting physics we have not yet discovered, or operating under rules entirely different from our own? And what intelligence guided the decision to divide into two perfectly controlled units before disappearing into the night? So far, the encounters we've examined suggest observation, monitoring, evasion. But as we move backward into the Cold War era, the narrative darkens, because the intelligence behind these objects does not appear interested only in our aircraft. It is interested in the one weapon capable of ending human civilization. And in multiple documented cases, they are not just watching it, they are turning it off. We now leave the ocean and move inland into the frozen plains of Montana. Malmstrom Air Force Base was one of the most critical nuclear installations on Earth. It housed Minuteman I intercontinental ballistic missiles, each carrying warheads capable of annihilating entire cities. These weapons were designed with extreme redundancy, hardened against electromagnetic pulses, sabotage, and even nearby nuclear detonations. They were engineered not to fail. In March 1967, that assumption collapsed. Just after dawn, Lieutenant Walter Fiegel received an urgent call from a topside security guard. The guard was visibly shaken. He reported a large, glowing red object hovering directly above the launch facility, silent, stationary, and inside restricted airspace. Seconds later, deep underground, alarms erupted. One missile went offline, then another, then another. Within moments, all 10 missiles in Echo Flight dropped to no-go status simultaneously. No explosions, no system damage, no intrusion detected. An event classified as functionally impossible under the Minuteman system's design. 8 days later, history repeated itself. Captain Robert Salas was on duty in the Oscar Flight launch capsule when his flight security controller called in a panic. The guard was shouting, reporting a glowing, red, oval-shaped craft hovering silently over the front gate. As Salas listened, the klaxon alarm sounded. Missiles began dropping offline, one by one, until all 10 nuclear weapons were completely disabled. Once again, the shutdown occurred in perfect synchronization with the object's presence overhead. Afterward, both Salas and Fiegel were debriefed by the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. They were ordered to sign non-disclosure agreements and told the incident never happened.
And that is, we have things flying over our military bases, and we don't know what it is, and it isn't ours.
For decades, the Air Force treated Malmstrom as an isolated anomaly. It wasn't. Declassified records reveal that 1 year earlier, in neighboring North Dakota, identical red lights appeared over another nuclear missile field, with similar disruptions. The pattern was already forming, and it was global. Before Malmstrom entered history, the pattern had already begun. In the late summer of 1966, Minot Air Force Base, another critical node in the U.S. nuclear deterrent network, experienced a strikingly similar incursion. This establishes that interference with America's nuclear arsenal was not an isolated malfunction, but a coordinated campaign unfolding across the northern tier of the United States. Captain David Schindel arrived at the Launch Control Center to begin his shift when he was intercepted by visibly shaken security personnel. Something was already wrong. Radar operators had detected an anomalous return over a cluster of Strategic Air Command missile sites. The object was large, low-flying, and moving in slow, deliberate arcs over the missile complex, behavior inconsistent with aircraft, weather phenomena, or known reconnaissance platforms. Ground teams soon confirmed visual contact. Witnesses described a luminous craft, glowing white with amber undertones, drifting silently across the North Dakota sky. Its shape appeared unstable, elongated one moment, more spherical the next, as if its physical configuration was not fixed. The object maneuvered with precision between missile silos. At one point, it descended and hovered near a launch control facility, deep inside restricted airspace under constant surveillance. Then the impossible happened. Missile systems dropped off alert status. Logic boards registered faults. Launch capability was temporarily lost. Once again, nuclear weapons, designed never to fail together, were rendered inert during the object's presence. As the situation escalated, a returning B-52 strategic bomber was diverted to investigate. What happened next removed all ambiguity.
We were on approach when the radar operator called out a fast-moving return, climbing toward us from below. The climb rate didn't make sense for anything operating in that airspace. When it leveled off beside us, we saw it clearly. A bright object, rotating slowly, almost like it was examining us. This wasn't a light, it had structure, shape, mass, and the way it held position. It matched our speed and altitude perfectly, without drift.
Across radar, air crew, and ground personnel, the details aligned with disturbing consistency. A structured craft, silent hover, shape instability or morphing, intelligent interaction with missile facilities and aircraft. The Minot incident introduces even more baffling questions. What kind of technology changes shape in mid-flight? Are we observing a machine, a biological construct, or something fundamentally non-human? What intelligence is capable of disabling highly protected nuclear weapons simply by hovering over them? Why disable nuclear missiles instead of destroying them? Were these incursions a warning or a demonstration of restraint? Did humanity come closer to nuclear annihilation during the Cold War than we realize, saved only by intervention? If this intelligence can neutralize ICBMs, why does it not stop conventional war? Is the objective the preservation of humanity, or merely the prevention of planetary destruction? For years, U.S. intelligence feared these incursions were Soviet in origin. They were wrong, because behind the Iron Curtain, the Soviet Union was confronting the same phenomenon. And in 1948, they chose to shoot. Kapustin Yar was the crown jewel of the Soviet missile program, their equivalent of White Sands or Area 51. German V-2 engineers worked under extreme secrecy to develop the USSR's first long-range ballistic missiles. Security was absolute: restricted airspace, continuous radar coverage. In the summer of 1948, radar operators detected an unidentified object loitering directly over the test range. Unlike later encounters, this object did not evade, it stayed. Under standing orders to protect the missile program, Soviet command scrambled a MiG interceptor to engage the intruder. The pilot closed the distance and visually identified a metallic, cigar-shaped craft. No wings, no control surfaces, no exhaust. He was ordered to fire.
База, вижу объект. Это не самолет.
Ground control. I have visual contact. This is not an aircraft. It is cylindrical, metallic, no wings, no tail. It reflects sunlight like polished silver. It is immense, perhaps 50 meters long. It is stationary. I am initiating an attack run. I have fired. Tracers impacting, no effect. It is turning. It is facing me. There is a light. My instruments are...
Transmission terminated. The MiG was destroyed instantly. Reports suggest the craft employed a directed energy weapon, not a projectile. Unlike U.S. cases characterized by observation and restraint, Kapustin Yar demonstrates something critical. This intelligence will defend itself. The craft did not initiate hostilities. It responded only after being fired upon. The destruction of the MiG aligns with later cases such as Tehran 1976, where UAP disabled or destroyed aircraft using electromagnetic or energy-based systems. This capability predates modern directed energy weapons by decades. Kapustin Yar taught the superpowers a brutal lesson: do not engage. But decades later, on a fog-drenched forest floor in England, the phenomenon would return to a nuclear site. This time, it wouldn't just hover, it would land. We now enter one of the most heavily documented military UAP incidents in NATO history. Multiple nights, multiple witnesses, radiation readings, and an object advancing directly toward a nuclear weapons storage facility. By late December 1980, RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge were among NATO's most sensitive installations. Jointly operated by the United States Air Force, the bases supported aircraft tasked with nuclear strike readiness. Just beyond the perimeter fence lay Rendlesham Forest, dark, quiet, and normally undisturbed. In the early hours of December 26th, security patrols reported strange lights descending into the forest near the east gate. The lights were not consistent with aircraft behavior. They moved low, silently, and pulsed with an intensity that defied navigation beacons or flares. At first, command assumed an aircraft crash. A response team was sent into the woods. What they encountered was not wreckage. Through the trees, the airmen observed a metallic, triangular craft resting on what appeared to be landing supports. It glowed with a bright white light, its surface shifting subtly, like molten glass beneath a solid skin. The air crackled with static electricity. Nearby livestock panicked. The object was small, roughly the size of a compact car. Before the team could approach further, the craft lifted silently, rose to treetop level, and maneuvered through the forest with impossible precision. Darting between branches, accelerating without sound, and disappearing into the night. 2 nights later, the phenomenon returned. This time, the investigation was led by the deputy base commander himself. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt entered the forest with a team, carrying a micro-cassette recorder. As the lights reappeared, he narrated events in real time, creating what would later become known as the Halt tape.
We found a small blast, what looks like a blasted or scruffed up area here. We got very positive readings. Let's see, is that here the center? Yes, it is. This is what we would assume would be. Why don't we do this? Why don't we make a sweep? Here, I've got my gloves on now. Let's make a sweep out around the whole area, about 10 foot out, and make a perimeter run around it. Starting right back here at the corner. Back at the same first corner where we came in. Let's go right back here. From now on, let's identify that as point number 1. That stake there. So you all know where it is. We have to sketch it. You got that, Sergeant Nevels? Yes, sir. Okay. Closest to the Woodbridge base. Point 1. Be point 1. And let's go clockwise from there. Point 2. Point 2? So this tree is between point 2 and point 3. And 2 other personnel requesting to rendezvous with you at your location. See it. Hey, this is eerie. What is the hot spot? This is strange. Here, somebody want to look at the spots in the ground? Whoops, what you want to do? We're walking all over the block here, sir. Okay, let's step back, not walk all over. Come back here, somebody put a beam on them. Or you're going to have to be back 10 or 15 feet. You see it? Okay, fine. Okay, lights off. Let's see at the first spot. Okay, that's what we'd call spot number 3. Let's go to the back corner and get spot number 1. For the eyes to adjust, we are getting an indication of a heat source coming out of that center spot, which will show up on heat or some form of energy. It's hardly heat at this stage of the game. It is looking directly overhead. One can see an opening in the trees plus some freshly broken pine branches on the ground underneath. Oh no, sir. So can I get some of those? Yeah, it's a strange, small red light. Looks to be out maybe a quarter to half mile, maybe further out. I'm going to switch off. The light is gone now. It was approximately 120 degrees from the site. Again. Is it back again? Yes, sir. Oh, that's the flashlight set. There's no doubt about it. There's some type of strange flashing red light. Yeah, it's yellow. I saw a yellow tinge in it, too. Weird. It appears to be maybe moving a little bit this way. It's brighter than it has been. Yellow? It's coming this way. It is definitely coming this way. Pieces of it are shooting off. There is no doubt about it. This is weird. To the left. Yeah, definitely moving left. Two lights. One light to the front, okay. One light to the left. Keep the flashlights off. There's something very, very strange. Okay, we're looking at the thing. We're probably about 200 to 300 yards away. It looks like an eye winking at you. It's still moving from side to side. And when you put the star scope on it, it sort of has a hollow center, or a dark center. It's like the pupil of an eye looking at you and winking. And the flash is so bright to the star scope that it almost burns your eye. We passed the farmer's house and across in the next field. Now we have multiple sightings of up to 5 lights with a similar shape and all, but they seem to be steady now. Okay, here he comes from the south. He's coming toward us now. Now we're observing what appears to be a beam coming down to the ground. This is unreal. 330, 330, and the objects are still in the sky, although the one to the south looks like it's losing a little bit of altitude. We're turning around and heading back toward the base. The object to the south is still beaming down lights to the ground. 0400 hours, one object still hovering over Woodbridge Base at about 5 to 10 degrees off the horizon, still moving erratic and similar lights and beaming down earlier.
The tape captures confusion, elevated radiation readings, and the moment an unknown craft directly illuminated nuclear ordnance storage. To this day, it remains one of the most compelling real-time military recordings of a UAP encounter ever made. Rendlesham showed deliberate interaction with nuclear infrastructure, observed by senior officers, recorded on tape, and confirmed with instruments. But 4 years earlier, the phenomenon demonstrated something even more alarming. Over the skies of Tehran, fighter jets didn't just observe it, they tried to engage. Shortly after midnight, Tehran's air defense network was flooded with calls. Hundreds of civilians reported a brilliant object hovering silently over the city, stationary, intensely luminous, and shifting colors. Iranian military radar confirmed the contact. No transponder, no flight plan, no conventional profile. Given Cold War tensions and Iran's proximity to Soviet airspace, the situation was treated as a potential incursion. An F-4 Phantom II interceptor was scrambled. As it closed on the target, the encounter crossed a critical threshold. The object reacted.
As we approached, the object looked like a star, but much larger. It wasn't moving like an aircraft, At about 25 nautical miles, our radar failed. Then communications. When I attempted to arm weapons, everything shut down. Missiles, displays, radios. When we turned away, all systems came back online.
A second F-4 was immediately launched.
I had the object on radar at 25 miles. It was flashing blue, green, red, orange, bright enough to see clearly. Then a smaller object detached and came straight toward me. It looked like a missile. I had tone on my sidewinder, but when I pressed the fire button, nothing. The entire weapons panel went dead. My radio went dead. The dashboard went dark. I dove to evade. The object followed briefly, then turned and rejoined the main craft. It wasn't trying to destroy me. It was warning me.
Ground radar tracked the craft as it maneuvered over Tehran, descending toward Mehrabad International Airport before accelerating rapidly out of range. Civilian and military systems confirmed its presence. U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency cables later described the object as possessing superior maneuverability, intelligent control, and electronic countermeasures far beyond known technology. In Tehran, the phenomenon demonstrated absolute control, neutralizing fighter jets without firing a shot. But a decade later, it would cross another line. This time, it wouldn't confront a military aircraft. It would pace a commercial airliner over the skies of Alaska. Tracked by civilian radar, tracked by military radar, and impossible to ignore. On November 17, 1986, Japan Airlines Flight 1628, a Boeing 747 cargo aircraft, was cruising at approximately 35,000 feet over eastern Alaska. The aircraft was under the control of Anchorage Air Route Traffic Control, transiting one of the most closely monitored airspaces on Earth due to its proximity to Soviet territory. Weather conditions were clear, visibility was excellent, nothing unusual appeared on the flight plan. Then, without warning, the crew observed two small, square-shaped luminous objects approaching from the left side of the aircraft. They were amber in color, intensely bright, and maneuvering independently. The objects paced the 747 effortlessly, matching speed, altitude, and heading. Moments later, a third object appeared. It was enormous. Captain Terauchi would later describe it as the size of two aircraft carriers. The object featured illuminated sections, almost like windows or panels, and moved with the aircraft as though formation flight were effortless. This was not just a visual encounter. The objects were detected on onboard weather radar, confirmed by Anchorage Center primary radar, and later correlated by Elmendorf Air Force Base.
1628, sir, if you're able to identify the type of aircraft, we cannot identify the type. Still coming, like a formation. It's quite a big. Military radar advises they do have a primary target in trail of view at this time.
The flight landed safely. Terauchi filed a detailed report. FAA supervisors described him as calm, credible, and highly experienced, with over 10,000 flight hours and a background as a former fighter pilot. The FAA officially classified the incident as an unresolved radar visual case. What happened over Alaska that night does more than defy explanation. It forces us to confront questions that cannot be dismissed as misperception or coincidence. Because this was not a fleeting sighting, It unfolded over nearly an hour, was tracked by radar, confirmed by air traffic control. And once those facts are acknowledged, several deeper questions remain. Who has the capability to build a flying structure the size of a city and operate it inside U.S. airspace? How did such a massive object maintain formation without visible propulsion or lift? Why escort a civilian cargo aircraft for nearly an hour through monitored international airspace? In Alaska, the phenomenon followed a commercial airliner, seen by pilots, tracked on radar, and documented by aviation authorities. But 20 years later, the pattern repeated. This time, there were no fighter jets, no missile silos, just airline crews, ground staff, and an object hovering openly above one of the busiest airports on Earth. On the afternoon of November 7, 2006, O'Hare International Airport was operating under routine conditions. Aircraft were taxiing, passengers were boarding. A low, solid cloud deck hung over the airfield. Without warning, multiple airline employees observed a metallic disc-shaped object hovering directly above gate C-17. The object was dark gray, smooth, sharply defined against the cloud layer. It was perfectly stationary, no sound, no exhaust, no visible means of lift. Air traffic control was notified, but radar systems showed no corresponding return. For several minutes, the object hovered in full view of pilots, mechanics, and ground crews. Then, abruptly, it accelerated straight upward, not at an angle, not gradually. It shot vertically, punching a perfectly circular hole through the cloud layer, and vanished. The hole remained visible for several minutes before slowly closing. There was no debris, no conventional aircraft, no immediate explanation.
I'm looking up thinking, that's not a balloon, that's metal. Gunmetal gray, and it's spinning. No sound. If it was a helicopter, we'd hear it. Then, whoosh, like it was fired out of a cannon. A perfect circle of blue sky appeared. The cloud didn't drift, it vanished.
Everyone stopped what they were doing. We were pointing at it. Then it shot straight up, no noise, and suddenly there was a perfect hole in the cloud.
Despite the number of trained aviation witnesses, no formal FAA investigation was conducted. Responsibility was deferred to United Airlines, which stated it could not identify the object. Meteorological explanations were proposed later, including a hole punch cloud. Meteorologists subsequently noted that such formations occur after aircraft pass through clouds, not before, and do not involve a visible object hovering beneath them. The incident remains officially unexplained. At O'Hare, the phenomenon violated civilian airspace openly, seen by dozens, ignored by radar, and gone before interception. But 2 years later, in Texas, it would do something different. It wouldn't hover, it would run, and it would lead the U.S. military on a high-speed chase across the sky. On the evening of January 8, 2008, residents across the rural communities surrounding Stephenville, Texas, began noticing strange lights moving rapidly across the sky. This was quiet country, cattle ranches, open fields, and wide skies, far from major commercial air corridors. The lights did not behave like aircraft. They traveled at extreme speeds, executed sharp turns, and changed direction abruptly. Witnesses described them as intensely bright, white or amber, sometimes appearing as multiple lights moving in coordinated formation. Others reported the lights splitting apart, then rejoining moments later. As reports multiplied, local law enforcement began receiving calls from concerned residents across multiple counties. Then came the detail that would transform the incident entirely. Several witnesses reported seeing F-16 fighter jets chasing the objects, afterburners lit, tearing across the sky in pursuit. The United States Air Force initially denied that any military aircraft were operating in the area that night. That denial would not last. FAA radar data, later released through a Freedom of Information Act request, confirmed that military jets were airborne over Stephenville during the exact window of the sightings. What made this case extraordinary was not just the number of witnesses. It was the data that followed.
My phone kept ringing. People all over the county were seeing the same thing. Whatever it was, it covered huge distances very quickly.
I was outside when I saw it moving fast in a way that made no sense.
I fly. I know aircraft. This wasn't that. It crossed the sky in seconds. It was blinding. Intense white lights. But they weren't like aircraft strobes. They were steady, and they were quiet. It came past us, and I developed this peaceful, easy feeling, almost like a religious experience. Then the jets came, 2 F-16, pushing hard, afterburners glowing. And this thing, this massive object, it just toyed with them. It waited for them to get close and then gone. The radar later showed it moving at 1,900 miles per hour. That's Mach 2.5. And it was silent.
In Stephenville, the phenomenon demonstrated dominance of open airspace, outrunning pursuit, appearing on radar, and leaving behind data that could not be reconciled with conventional aviation. But the next case carries far heavier weight. In Texas, the jets chased the object. In Australia, the object chased the pilot, and he never came back. On the evening of October 21st, 1978, 20-year-old pilot Frederick Valentich departed Moorabbin Airport near Melbourne on a routine flight across Bass Strait to King Island. The aircraft was a single-engined Cessna 182, mechanically sound, fully fueled, and operating under clear weather conditions. Valentich was young and relatively inexperienced, but licensed and current. He was flying at approximately 4,500 feet over open water. There were no storms, no restricted airspace, no reported aircraft conflicts. At 7:06 p.m., Valentich made radio contact with Melbourne Flight Service. He reported something unusual. What followed would become one of the most haunting final transmissions in aviation history.
Melbourne Flight Service, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any known traffic below 5,000 feet?
Delta Sierra Juliet, Melbourne Flight Service. No known traffic below 5,000 feet.
I'm experiencing strange aircraft hovering above me.
Roger, Delta Sierra Juliet. What type of aircraft is it?
It seems to be a large aircraft below 5,000 feet. I cannot confirm the type. It's 4 bright lights. They seem to be like landing lights. The aircraft has just passed over me at least 1,000 feet above. Is there any Air Force aircraft in the vicinity?
Delta Sierra Juliet, there is no known military or civilian traffic in your vicinity.
It seems to be playing some sort of game. It's flying over me.
Delta Sierra Juliet, can you describe the object? Can you describe the aircraft as it's flying past?
Delta Sierra Juliet calling again. It's not an aircraft. It's a long shape. I cannot identify it. It has such speed. It's before me right now. It seems like it's stationary. What it's doing right now is orbiting. The thing is just orbiting on top of me. It's also got a green light, and it looks metallic, like it's shiny on the outside.
Delta Sierra Juliet, say again your last transmission. Is the aircraft still with you? Say again, is the aircraft still with you? What are your intentions?
It's just vanished. Now it's approaching from the southwest. The engine is idling. The engine is coughing. My intentions are to proceed to King Island, Melbourne. That strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. It's hovering. And it's not an aircraft.
His final transmission ended with 17 seconds of an unexplained metallic scraping or pulsing sound. Then, silence. There was no distress call, no mayday, no impact signal. The aircraft vanished from radar. A full air and sea search followed, covering thousands of square miles. No wreckage, no oil slick, no debris, no body. Frederick Valentich was never found. In Frederick Valentich's final transmission, we heard the moment a human may have been taken by something he could not escape, an encounter with the unknown, and a disappearance without resolution. But the story does not end with humanity as the passive observer. In the next case, the roles may have reversed. Here, something unknown did not take a human. Humans may have taken it. On the night of August 25, 1974, U.S. air defense radar installations detected an unknown aerial target. It was not a commercial flight. It was not a known military aircraft. The object appeared over the Gulf of Mexico, moving at speeds and along trajectories inconsistent with conventional aerodynamics, before crossing into Mexican airspace. Mexican authorities were alerted. As the object tracked southward over the remote Chihuahua Desert, it abruptly vanished from radar near the town of Coyame. At nearly the same moment, a small civilian aircraft operating in the region also disappeared. The immediate conclusion was grim: a mid-air collision. Mexican military units were dispatched to the crash site. Requests for U.S. assistance were declined. The recovery would be handled internally. According to U.S. intelligence intercepts later cited in classified summaries, Mexican forces located the site and reported 2 wrecks. One, a civilian aircraft, destroyed on impact. The second, metallic, disc-shaped, and largely intact. The anomalous object was loaded onto a flatbed truck, and the convoy began its return to base. Then the radio traffic changed. Confusion entered the transmissions. Voices became strained. Reports grew fragmented. And then, without warning, all communication stopped. The convoy halted in the desert. It never moved again. What allegedly happened next is drawn from a controversial intelligence document known as the Deneb Report, a document whose authenticity remains disputed, but whose details have circulated within intelligence and UFO research communities for decades. According to this report, a U.S. Rapid Response Recovery Team, equipped with protective gear and helicopter support, crossed into Mexico to investigate the sudden silence. When they reached the convoy, the scene was deeply unsettling. The engines of the vehicles were still running, the headlights still cut through the desert night, but there was no movement. The Mexican soldiers were reportedly found exactly where they had been moments earlier, in driver's seats, along the perimeter, beside the cargo. All were dead. There were no gunshot wounds, no blast injuries, no evidence of a firefight. The Deneb report claims the soldiers may have been exposed to an unknown biological agent or intense radiation associated with the recovered craft, resulting in rapid physiological collapse. According to the same account, the U.S. team acted decisively. The bodies were not recovered. Instead, the vehicles, equipment, and surrounding area were rigged with high-grade explosives. The unidentified craft itself was reportedly airlifted, possibly by a heavy-lift helicopter such as a CH-53, and transported to a secure U.S. facility. In the years that followed, no official explanation was issued. No aircraft loss was publicly acknowledged. Families of the Mexican soldiers were reportedly told their deaths occurred during a routine operation. The wreckage was never recovered, and the Coyame incident entered history under a different name, the Mexican Roswell. All that remains is a disputed report and a question that has never gone away. What price is paid when something unknown falls from the sky and someone decides it cannot be allowed to remain? For over an hour, we have followed the phenomenon through radar screens, cockpits, and classified recoveries. We have seen aircraft outmaneuvered, pilots vanished, objects recovered and erased. Again and again, the encounters unfold in the shadows. Limited witnesses, military channels, official silence. But what you have seen so far is only the first layer of the story, because there comes a moment, inevitable and irreversible, when secrecy fails, when the phenomenon no longer confines itself to restricted airspace or classified operations, or men trained not to speak. A moment when it appears not to a few, but to thousands, entire cities, entire regions, entire populations looking up at the same sky and seeing the same impossible thing. And when that happens, the question is no longer whether the phenomenon is real. The question becomes far more unsettling. Where are they coming from? Not speculation, but evidence. Objects that descend into the ocean and emerge without slowing. Encounters near nuclear sites and strategic infrastructure. Craft that do not behave like machines, but like something aware. And in one case, a moment so profound it still defies explanation, a group of children who claim the phenomenon did not just appear, it communicated. In Part 2, the scale changes, from isolated encounters to mass sociological events, from secrecy to public burden, from sightings to contact. We will examine the nights when entire cities stopped, the waves of sightings that governments could no longer contain, and the evidence suggesting the phenomenon may not come from the stars at all, but from the oceans, from another dimension, or from a future we have not yet reached. If you believe the story ends here, it doesn't. It only gets harder to ignore. Subscribe, turn on notifications, because Part 2 begins where denial collapses and humanity is forced to confront a universe that may have been watching us far longer than we imagined.